All right, and welcome to this special episode of Real Estate Fight Club. This series is called What Would You Do?, where we talk about ethics and professional standards committee violations. And here with me today is Jim Camarada. Hey, Jim.
Hey Jennifer, how are you?
I'm great. How are you today?
Groovy.
Good. And Jim's with Keller Williams in Minnesota. I almost said Wisconsin. Oh my goodness.
Well, it's an hour away.
It's close. But today we're actually not going to talk about a case. We're going to talk about like what happens if you're fined and what the fines are, right?
Yeah, you've had that question from a number of folks.
Hmm.
So what are the fines? What's the exposure? Uh,
Right.
I guess it was about 2 years ago, the Minnesota State Association put a program into place. So if you are cited with a possible violation,
Hmm.
you can either go before an ethics hearing panel
Hmm.
and take your chances with whatever discipline might be meted out, or this schedule has been put together and it's a code of ethics citation schedule.
Okay.
So if you get cited with a possible violation, you could say, nah, I don't want to be bothered with a hearing. This is a first offense. Now I'll just plead guilty and take the fine.
I want to make sure that we get to like what happens if you do decide to go to a hearing, like what's the process. But I think like, as you mentioned, this is just for Minnesota, but it gives us an idea of about how serious of an offense this is based on you know, the
Yeah.
fine.
Well, how about a for example?
Let's do it.
Okay, so there are articles 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, a lot for 12, 14, and 16.
Okay.
So it breaks it down by the first offense, second offense, and a third offense. So
Okay.
let's pick Article 1, failure to fully disclose or obtain consent from both parties when representing both the seller, landlord, and buyer tenant in the same transaction.
So dual agency. Okay.
In this state, it's dual agency. So the first discipline for a first offense is a $250 fine.
I mean, it's not a
Okay.
big deal.
Second one, it's $1,000 fine and
Oh,
3 hours of code of ethics education.
because clearly you don't understand how it works.
And the
Okay.
third offense is a $1,750 fine plus 3 hours of continuing education for the code of ethics.
The same education that didn't work last time.
Right.
Right. Okay. Is that
So,
that third offense seems like a lot less harsh well, I guess it is 750. Okay. I guess it's
yeah.
not.
Well, and it varies by the offense. So an Article 3 violation, providing access to a listed property on terms other than those established by the owner or the listing broker. So in other
Okay.
words, not making an appointment
Okay.
or walking up. This is why I love the electronic key boxes, because it tracks who comes and goes
Right.
as opposed to a combo. And anybody, oh yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and they can go in.
Right.
That that's an offense. And a third violation is $2,250 fine plus 6 hours of
Oh, wow.
COE education.
Okay.
So now they're putting some teeth into it. Uh, I checked with legal counsel this morning, one of our legal eagles at the association, and he said the National Association gives them guidelines up to $5,000 maximum offense.
Okay.
So that's the difference between just accepting the guilt and pleading guilty and taking the fine and going before the ethics committee.
Right.
Last year, there was a $15,000 fine, not just for the
Wow.
ethics portion of it, but there was also some fraud. So
Oh.
that was a first for our association. $15,000.
So if you're in violation of, say, a couple of the articles, right? Like you could be found in violation of a handful of articles, not just one,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Would the fines like combine I mean, in
Could,
general? They
it
could.
could. Yeah, yeah. I've been in hearings where we've assessed a $1,500 or $2,000 fine, for a couple of violations if we
Mhm.
believe that this person was in
And
violation.
who decides if you don't go to the hearing, who decides what the fine is?
Well,
Like if
if
it's like they literally just say, follow the schedule and say, this is what it is. Like that's it.
yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That's it. So
And what if it's your fourth offense?
they didn't go fourth offense. If you're fourth offense, you're probably going to be suspended.
You think? I just haven't seen that. Have you seen a lot of people suspended?
No.
Do you think
No.
it's because they're not violating 4 times, or you think they're just being assessed a different fine?
The message has gotten through. They've been smacked up against the side of
Maybe
the head.
they violate other offenses, just not that one. So what if you violate like Article 1 this time and then you violate Article 3 next time? Is it still the first offense of both?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not.
I think it probably
That's a
depends on the
terrific question.
circumstances, right?
Yeah, I think it really does. And it there are two different ways that we look at this. One, is it agent against agent,
Uh-huh.
or is it agent against a member of the public?
Which carries a heftier fine,
Public
usually the
against
public.
the
That makes
public.
sense, right?
Yeah,
Because
because
that's
this
what the
guy,
code of ethics is meant to, it's meant to like protect the
Mhm,
public against
mhm.
us.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, oh yeah. And the same thing with our Department of Commerce, the
yeah,
licensing division. It's all designed to protect the public. And if
right,
you are found guilty, ooh, that could be a hefty fine by the Department of Commerce.
right.
Worse
Well,
than what we have.
I want to talk about two of our partners real quick, and then then I want to learn more about if you decide not to take the fine, like what is the actual process. So the first partner I want to talk about is Vulcan 7, who I use for our like cold calling and circle prospecting. And if you go to vulcan7.com/Jennifer Mertland, you can get 2 weeks for $49. That's a steal, man. And then the second one is my coach, John Kitchens. So if you go to callcoachkitchens.com/form and type in Fight Club, you'll get a free 30-minute business assessment. He's awesome. He's the best. Do you have a coach, Jim? I know you coach people, but do you
Yeah,
have one?
I do coach, and I have had a coach.
Uh-huh.
Uh, it's when I was a team leader.
Yeah.
Uh, every week,
Yep.
for half an hour, I was on with my coach. So
What do
I've
you
been
think about coaching? I mean, you do coach people too.
it's uncomfortable many times.
True.
But I can tell you honestly that taking over the office that was failing,
Mm,
and my coach pushing me every single week,
yeah.
we were able to not only get profitable, but start profit sharing and get up
Boom.
to number 2 in market share uh,
Great.
in 5 of the 6 years that I was running the office. So does it work? Yep.
Yeah. Yep. That's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
coaching's definitely important. But let's get back to the topic. So
Sure.
okay, so let's say we won't use me as an example. Agent A. Let's say Agent A violates a code and they want to take their chances. Like what happens? What is the process?
They go before a hearing committee,
And
and
who's on the committee?
volunteers like myself who are all
Agents.
licensees. Yep.
Okay.
We've been trained. We have almost a full day of training every single year
Okay.
by the association. And so, like I said, we're all volunteers, and we will sit and hear the case. There are 5 of us plus
Okay.
legal counsel to keep us
Hmm.
on track to make sure that procedurally it's following the letter.
Okay.
Uh, and the uh, uh, the first party, states his or her case.
Hmm.
Why have I been offended, or what's the alleged
What happened?
violation?
Yeah.
Mhm. The complainant.
Is that the consumer? Like if it's against the consumer comes in and says,
Yeah, the
okay,
complainant always goes first. Then
okay,
the respondent has the opportunity to ask questions.
Okay.
Then when that's done, then the panel members have the opportunity to ask questions.
Is anybody represented?
They can be
By whom?
either their broker or by legal counsel
Okay.
at their expense.
What do you see most common?
As far as what?
Like, can you, like, let's say I don't, if I'm the respondent and I want representation from like, could I have another realtor represent me?
It's usually the broker.
It's
It's
usually the
usually the
broker. I got
broker.
it.
Yeah, the
Okay.
broker
Could it
or
be any broker or just like your broker?
your broker.
What if you don't like you? No, I'm just kidding. I love my broker. But I'm
Yeah.
saying, like, like what if there's another broker that it makes more, I don't know. I was just asking. Okay, so is this like, usually it seems like it would last, like it could last a pretty long time. Does it ever go into like multiple days?
I've been in one that was 6 hours.
That's the longest that you've been in?
Yeah, yeah,
That
that was
seems like a
painful.
long time.
It was painful.
So
There
you
was
like present evidence and like all this stuff, right?
a lot of
Wow.
questions, a lot of evidence. We had to break for lunch. It was painful.
Who pays for lunch, Jim?
The
No, I'm just kidding.
association. The
Okay, well, that's
association.
good. That's
Yeah,
good.
no,
That's
they
good.
budget for that because they know it every once in a while. Typically, we're in and out within 2 hours.
Okay.
But that one went for 6 hours, and whew, there was
That's
a
a
lot of
long
data.
time.
There was a
Yeah.
lot of data. There was a lot of emotion. Yeah. On
Yeah.
our
Well,
part.
I imagine if you're, yeah, from the people involved in it for sure.
Yeah.
So and is it more or less likely to have, like, what is the fine schedule at that point? Does it change? Is it higher? Is it lower? Like, what happens?
Each case has to be decided on its own merit.
Okay.
What was the offense? Was the person really knowledgeable? Did they do it intentionally?
Mm-hmm.
Was it a mistake?
Mm-hmm.
So lots of factors.
But they use the
play into it.
schedule guidelines that you were talking about earlier to, like, as a guideline, if they do find the person like guilty. Is it
Yes,
guilty? Is that what you call it?
in violation of
In violation of Article
the
1,
code. Yep.
they use the schedule as a guideline for the fine, I assume.
It is only that is just the guideline because it might be just a slap on the wrist and a letter of reprimand if it's
Okay.
a minor issue, or it could be something more serious. And if we want to really send a strong message, then we're going to hit them with dollars and continuing ed.
Is it allowed to go above the recommended amount for the fine violation?
The legal counsel keeps us within the parameters.
Got
So
it.
yeah,
Okay.
they're not going to let us go, hog wild. But
And
that's
I imagine it's like very similar throughout like all the other states too. I mean, the process.
yeah, it is, and it is. They're following the NAR guidelines. Again, each association will adapt its own set of guidelines based on NAR input.
It's so interesting. I can remember, and I'm sure you do, you've been in real estate a long time, but when they would put the offenses like in kind of like our little newsletter,
Yep.
and it would be like the person's name and like
Mhm.
the violation, like they would put it on there.
Oh, I
So
remember.
everybody knew what happened.
Yeah, yeah, and that was embarrassing. I haven't
That
seen
was
it.
the point, I think, Jim.
Yeah, to get the point across.
I would
You
be
don't want to see this
curious
happen.
if there's more repeat offenders now that that doesn't happen, or if there's less.
I don't know. I
I
don't
wonder
know.
if who has that
Um,
data.
all of the ones that I've sat in on for the past, I don't know, I guess 6, 7 years now, uh, have basically been first offenses.
Most people are first. Is it mostly
So I
the
have not seen,
public
yeah,
filing, or is it mostly other agents filing?
other agents, other agents.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I would think that because these are your peers, that you're not, in order to get you to file, it had to be really bad.
hmm hmm
Because you can commit the same offense multiple times, which could be spread out over years.
Yeah, well, it's self-policing.
Yeah.
We are policing ourselves, and we want to keep the standards high. And if I catch somebody in violation, I'm not going to do anybody any good if I look the other way.
I know, but I would just feel like if it were, I mean, I don't know. I'm just like a little surprised. Like I would feel like, well, crap, I got to work with this person and they've been a realtor for 15 years and you're telling me this is the first time they violated? You know
Or
what
they
I
got
mean?
caught, or the first time they got caught.
Right, of course.
So, I'll continue to work with everybody on a, highly professional level.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's you.
if you are going to not be ethical or lawful,
Right. Right.
you got to get called in on it because you're going to
Agreed.
continue
A
to
hundred
do that.
percent agreed. But
Yeah.
it's not anonymous though, because you're going. Well, let me back up. So if somebody doesn't go to the panel, is it anonymous who turned them in or no?
No, the other person would know who turned them in.
Who turned them in, even
So,
if they
oh yeah,
accepted the fine?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
nothing anonymous. Confidential decisions and such, that never leaves the room.
okay.
We never have a case precedent. You know, how did the panel decide on that case? We'll never
Oh,
know that.
it's
We'll
all brand
never.
new.
It's all brand new based on the circumstances. So there's no case
Even if it's
study.
their second or third offense?
Yeah. The only people who will know are the legal staff at the association
Uh-huh.
and the people who are sitting in at that hearing. And we don't even know that until after the hearing, and we go into executive session, because then we'll
So
say,
interesting how it
this is the second
works.
offense, this is the first offense. They've had a clean record for the last 15 years. So then they share that with us, but not until we've reviewed
Wow.
it and heard the case, because they don't want to prejudice our thinking. They want us to be very open-minded
That
and,
makes sense. Yeah.
you
But
know,
you do need to know if it's a second offense before you do the final
yep,
violation. Yeah,
yep,
that
that's an
makes sense.
executive session. Yeah, that's after the hearing. So we've
Do
got
you
to take
have
that
any
into
thoughts
consideration.
on if you were going to make one change in the process, what would you change?
I wouldn't change anything.
You think
I've
it's
been,
perfect? Nothing's perfect, Jim.
it's not perfect, but it works, and it works well, and it gives everybody a fair hearing,
Okay.
and it's recorded,
Okay.
and we all sign off on it. It's procedurally, according to the rule book. So
But the people on the panel are also the peers of the agents, right?
correct.
So let's say like you're listening to a violation and you've had a kind of a run-in with that agent as well. Are you allowed to like release yourself from that panel?
Yes.
And you should,
Yeah.
I imagine, right?
Yeah, and I got released from a hearing panel one time
Hmm.
because of a prior familiarity with one of
That
the
makes sense. Like they're your
parties.
friends or whatever, right?
Yeah, can Jim be totally objective? And I agreed with that decision. And I
Yeah.
said, Possibly not." So
Yeah.
yeah, I should not be on this panel. So all the
Interesting.
people that I hear, I don't know. I
Okay.
do not know. So,
It
you
would
know,
be interesting though, like if you had to make a change, could one of them be like that the panel's not even local? Like, do you think that would make a difference or
well,
no?
that happens. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, that happens. We are statewide.
Okay.
So if asked, I could attend a hearing in Duluth, which is 2.5 hours
Oh, what if you
away from
didn't
here.
want to drive up for 2.5 hours to listen to a 1 hour panel to drive back 2.5 hours?
And I don't volunteer.
Oh, I gotcha. It's all volunteer. That makes
So it's
sense.
all volunteer. So I stay just within the metro, you know,
Okay.
within a short drive.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to drive 2.5 hours anywhere in the state for a hearing. Now there are my colleagues who will do that, and
Yeah.
God love them,
Yeah.
for
I
doing
mean,
it.
they need everybody. Yeah, that's
But
good.
not this boy.
So if somebody like was interested in being involved on like their board level, what are some of the, I know your criteria may be different, but like what are some of the criteria around being involved?
You Every year we have an open window.
Okay.
So when that window comes for volunteers for this committee, this committee, this committee, you just have to sign up, throw your name into the hat, and then you'll be contacted by staff.
Okay.
Um, and each association is going to have their own procedures. But one of the criteria is you have to attend this mandatory annual training,
Hmm.
and it's off-site
Okay. All day.
almost.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good chunk of the day. They usually provide lunch for us. And we have case studies, we have discussions, we have breakout groups, any changes to the code of ethic
Hmm.
articles. I mean,
Hmm.
so we go over a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
as well as how do you conduct yourself during a hearing. You have to have a poker face,
Right.
the kinds of questions that you ask,
Right.
your body language. So
Right.
a whole lot of stuff that we're
I could
taught.
never be involved because I'd be like, man, come on. Nobody believes you. Or I'd be like, you know what I mean?
At the end of the session, my cheek is usually pretty, chewed up.
I imagine, like, oh, so annoying. So if like how often are these cases coming up? Like if you were gonna volunteer like often, would you be volunteering like how often in a month?
No more than one.
Okay, so they're not coming up terribly often.
No, and we've got a large pool of individuals who've been doing this for a long time.
Gotcha.
So, they
It
want to.
seems like people that do it are the ones that do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I do 6 or 7 a year,
Okay.
yeah,
That sounds
that's
about
a lot.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Well,
it's
it's
fun.
super enlightening. I'm glad we decided to do this episode on that because we were getting a ton of questions, and clearly I had a bunch of questions. I feel like we were on like a cop show and I was the detective or something asking you so many questions. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So this was fun. This was a nice departure.
It was a good one.
So,
Well,
yeah.
if people do have a referral for you in Minnesota, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
Oh, text, email, or call at 612-562-7461 or Jim Camarata at kw.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jim.
Thank you, Jen.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.